Welcome to the Author Your Life podcast, where you can write a new script for your life and become the hero of your story. I'm your host, David McRae. You are the author of your life. Let's get started.
All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Hello my friends, welcome back to another episode of Author Your Life. And today we're going to be talking about pain. I'm sorry, it's a bit of a negative one, but it's not a depressing look at pain. Let's face it, we all have pain in our lives. We all have pain in our personal stories. And I'm sure that right now you can give me a whole list of past pains that you've experienced. Pain is inevitable. But suffering is optional, as a famous person once said. So what is the difference? What is the difference between the inevitable experience of pain and the optional experience of suffering? Well, I think the difference is that we can use pain to our advantage. Pain is neither good nor bad. Pain is neutral, believe it or not. Because pain on one hand can be something that hurts us, that cripples us, that destroys us. But equally, pain can be something that warns us, that motivates us, that changes us. And that's the aspect of pain that I want to focus on here in this episode. Because what I've seen in my own life and in the lives of others is that pain can be an incredible motivator in our lives. If I think to some of the changes that I've made in my life personally, some of the most positive changes have come through pain. They have been fueled by pain, a desire to move away from pain. If I think back to some of my most significant experiences, my parents getting divorced when I was 5 years old, that has motivated me. That pain has motivated me to not experience that pain again, to ultimately make my relationship with the person that I love a success in the manner that my parents unfortunately weren't able to do that. If I think back to age 13, when I was severely overweight, I was 17 stone, I had low confidence, low self-esteem, that pain and that frustration of seeing myself like that, of being in that unhappy situation, that motivated me to lose that weight, to start changing my eating habits, to start exercising, to start playing sports. That pain fueled my weight loss and my physical transformation. And of course, for those of you who've been following Author Your Life for a while and know my personal story and know my personal motivations for starting this business, for entering the space of thought leadership, you'll know that comes from losing my dad at 22. That incredible pain of losing my best friends, the person that I loved, my mentor, my role model, that has driven me to start this business. That has driven me to make the changes that I do right now and I hope to do in the future. All of that change came from that pain. And when we use pain in this way, pain can be our motivator. Because as I said, you'll have things in your story, you'll have things in your past that you don't like, that you're unhappy with, that have brought you this pain. But you can use that pain. Go back into that state. Remember the fear, remember the anger, remember the frustration, whatever it is. Connect with the energy of that emotion and use that to drive you forward. Use that pain. You see, there's a really interesting set of processes that happen after we have a traumatic event in our life. And research and science has shown that there are these 3 different trajectories that we can take after a traumatic event. If you imagine that you have the timeline of your life and suddenly a traumatic event hits, well, what can happen is for some people, they have a dip. Well, in fact, we all have the dip. We all have a dip after a traumatic event, especially a very traumatic event. There's this dip in our well-being, in our life satisfaction, in our vibrancy, in our connection, in our fulfillment. After that dip, many people languish from that moment on. Their life descends and they lose an essence of who they are, the life that they were living, and they never get it back. That traumatic event dictates how the rest of their life will go. And that's certainly what I don't want to happen to each of you. What I hope is that after that dip, you can bounce back. And many people, what they do is that they do bounce back. And they bounce back into a state of recovery, where they get back to the same level they were before. Yes, they had that traumatic event. Yes, there's a dip. But once again, they rise and they recover and they get back to where they were. But now I said there were 3 options. Languishing is one, recovery is another. But what you observe in not quite so many people is that after that traumatic dip, they bounce back, but the energy of that traumatic event, the lessons that they learn, the strength that they develop, bounces back past recovery and into something called post-traumatic growth. This is where you're better than you were before. This is where you're a better person, you're living a better life, you have better relationships as a direct result of that traumatic experience. And that's what I encourage in each of you who are listening to this episode. What I'm saying to you is that your pain can define you. You should let your pain define you, but not in a way of languishing, not letting pain dictate the rest of your life in a negative way. Allow that pain to dictate the rest of your life in a positive way. Don't allow it to pull you into the depths of languishing. Use it to drive you into the upper echelons of growth. Use that pain as a motivator for everything that you do, all the changes that you want to make as a direct result of that pain. That is how we use pain to our advantage. That is how I implore you to use your own pain, because we all have it. So since you have it, you might as well use it. Use it to create something better. As they say, out of the ashes rises the phoenix. Out of your ashes, allow your own phoenix to rise. So folks, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson that I shared with you today. I hope that you'll join me for many more in the future. But until next time, remember that you are the author of your life. You hold the pen and you can write whatever script you want for yourself. So go out today and write yourself a beautiful story. I'll speak to you soon. David. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate it hugely if you could head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review for the podcast. With your review, please be as honest and detailed as you can be. Because with honest and detailed feedback, that helps me to adapt and grow this podcast to most serve you, the listener. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, then make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That way you aren't going to miss any of the future episodes that we've got lined up for you. Until next time, remember that you are the author of your life. You hold the pen, and you can write whatever script you want for yourself. So go out today and write yourself a beautiful story.